Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are Podcast.
This is We Are Bagu, Season 2, Episode 8, Indie Developer Spotlight, Colorgrave, Prodigal, and Cursed Crackers, For Whom the Belle Toils.
If this is your first time checking out the podcast network, please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that said, on to the podcast.
We Are Bagu.
Hey everybody, welcome to We Are Bagu, a video game podcast where we talk Atari to Steam and everything in between. I am your host, Doc. Today, I have the amazing Mhinbron with me. Mhinbron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you today?
Doing excellent. Mhinbron is Chief Executive, is that right? What's your title for the
I am the team lead and the big cheese over at Colorgrave.
The big cheese, I like that. So Colorgrave Studios, which has released one game so far, but it does go back a little bit further. You have released two games previously under another title, White Clover. Is that correct?
Yes, you've done your homework. So previously we were operating under White Clover, and that was kind of when I was doing stuff on my own, trying to figure stuff out. And then I wound up building a team of static people. So before that, I'd been doing like just random people jumping in and out. It was a little bit chaotic. So when I built a static team, we said, okay, well, let's build a brand. We'll function as a team. We'll figure out what we want to do together, and we'll make games that we think are cool together. One of those games under White Clover, we still have plans to fix and finish and do correctly. It's just one of those projects that's such an extensive one that it's going to take longer than we can afford right now. So
is that the Xenocyte Clad? Is that
yes,
right?
Xenocyte Clad. That was in development hell for like 3 years or something because I just kept getting different artists and we couldn't get a consistent art style. So we'd have to redo stuff or add things, remove things because they didn't feel good. It was a mess. I didn't really know what I was doing. It was a little too extensive.
Obviously, you know what you're doing now because I've played the demo for Prodigal and it is amazing. It actually was so good. I dropped my $10 on it. So
thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm super excited to play through it. I cannot wait. So you plan on going back to this game eventually and working from the ground up or just kind of fixing some stuff you said?
So we have a basic idea of what we want to do with it. We know the story, we know the mechanics, we know all the sort of stuff we want to do to overhaul it. In fact, a lot of the code I already did. The main issue is the art style we want to do for it is going to be a little more time consuming. Estimates are like 2 years probably, depending on like how many pixel artists we have working with us at the time. But where we are as a team to keep people eating, we have to get games out quicker than over the course of 2 years. So
right.
We're trying to use Cursed Crackers, Prodigal, if we have to, another project in order to build up that war chest. And then we'll go back and do what we need to do and get Xenocyte out and correct.
Is that kind of your passion project then? You want to get that one correct? Is that the thorn in the side kind of thing where you're like, I've got to get this right?
It's kind of the thorn in my side because I did early access. I wasn't really a big fan of the idea of early access, but at the time I had like a community of 60 people that were interested in the game and the lore. And I was like, all right, listen, it's probably gonna be a while till this game is done. Do you want me to put it on early access just so you can play it and give feedback as I work on and all that other sort of stuff? Well, that turned into kind of like a guilt thing where, well, now these people have paid for this game that's not finished and I need to get it done. I need to have it completed and in hand. So every single time I complete another project, it's like, oh my gosh, dude, I have to go back and do Xenocyte. Like these people are left hanging all these years. It's terrible.
You'll get there eventually. But the stuff you're making in the meantime is aces. It is so good. Well, first of all, are you from the Dallas area? Are you?
Yeah,
native?
I was born in Midland and then I moved from Midland to Dallas to be close to my grandparents. What year was that? Third grade, probably, I think. And I've been there ever since. I moved probably about 10 years ago up to the northern reaches of the DFW area, just because I don't like being in the thick of the city. I like having some fresh air and open sky.
You've been here for a while, and then 2014 is about whenever you started developing. Is that right?
Probably. I don't really have the timeline memorized. The first game I ever finished and released was The Box, which was more of just like trying to figure out the process. I still put a lot of time and a lot of effort. I had music done by our same guy, John Sinclair, and he crushed it on that too. But it's definitely not something that we push for sales and try and promote. It's just something that was kind of like my first project. And there is internal debate of whether we just rip it off of Steam or keep it up there just for grins. So
Oh yeah, definitely keep it up there. You might as well. It's not hurting anybody. And if they want to go back and look, because one of these games, I don't know how well Prodigal's done, but I'm shocked if it hasn't done super well because it's an amazing game from what I've seen so far. So
we've been having a pretty rough time getting it into people's hands with in terms of like content creators, YouTubers, streamers and stuff. They just get so many emails every single day that stuff just gets buried, and it's easy for them to see it like subject line and just write it off. The only real success we've had with like getting it into their hands is through contacts or people that know them and that sort of stuff. So it's like a direct line of communication.
Yeah, I could tell that this was very much a telephone kind of game where your friend tells your friend tells your friend, but I'm totally enchanted by it. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm so there. I'm going to buy my friend a copy of it too, just because I know he loves games like this.
What's been cool about the kind of telephone type promotion aspect is we have a pretty tight knit community of really supportive, cool people that, you know, interact a lot, share stuff a lot. We have some artists that draw some really goofy things because someone in the community will make some offhanded joke in the Discord and then they'll go and draw it. So that's been a cool outcome of that sort of a community growth compared to, you know, the normal of blowing up on some random YouTuber's channel.
Well, and you got to give credit to the script.
The original story was written by me. The characters were all originally done by me. Blue definitely had a lot of involvement here and there, trying to adjust things and make things sound better. That was part of why we didn't divvy up the credits into saying like this person did this person did that, is because we all kind of did stuff here and there. Like I even managed to slip some pixel art into the final version of the game, which I'm pretty tickled with. I get to brag every once in a while to Lou, like, hey, you have to listen to me. I'm a professional pixel artist now. We're on the same level.
I want to talk about your video game inspirations. What were the games that you grew up on? What was your first system?
Oh, geez. Well, the first system that I owned was a Game Boy, because my parents were very anti-video games. They thought they were bad and would, you know, make you violent, all that sort of stuff. So I had a Game Boy and I could play it whenever we go on a trip, like a car trip or go on a plane, that sort of thing. And as soon as the plane landed, that thing was taken away and they put it away. They would hide it. But I still remember to this day, and it tickles me to death. I remember being in Toys R Us and we were picking out the first game that I would play. And this Toys R Us salesperson was like, all right, here's Pokemon. This one's a pretty popular game nowadays. The kids are loving it. You have to catch 150 monsters and then you get to the next level. And I was like, 150? That sounds like a chore. I don't want that. That sounds awful. And instead I bought some other terrible game. And then like it took me 5 years to wind up getting into Pokemon. Just,
oh, wow.
It's so funny how I remember that one interaction of, you know, oh, that sounds horrible. I want nothing to do with that.
You scraped your sides with greatness is why, because probably by the time you got to it, you were like, wow, I really missed out. I wasted 5 years of not knowing these 150 Pokemon monsters.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so you mostly played the Game Boy. And it's so funny you say that. I talk to developers, I talk to people who are interested. They always say the same thing. My parents thought video games were evil, and now I make video games. So It's so funny to me. So what was your game of choice when you were a kid then? You had the Game Boy, it maybe came with Tetris, most did. But other than that, like, what do you think was the one that really stuck out to you that inspired these games that you're making now?
Oh, gosh. Well, if we're talking about what games were inspirational to it, that would be different from like the games that I had, because a lot of my first games were kind of whatever I was given. So I had like a Mario game that I hated, but it was the only game I had. So I'd play the tar out of it because what else was I going to do? But in terms of inspiration for this game, it was definitely like the old Zelda, the old 2D Zelda games. There's a little bit of inspiration from stuff like Dark Cloud, because that's just, you know, something I played a ton as a kid.
How about development? Did you go to school to become a game developer, or did you go to school for something different?
Technically, I'm a high school and a college dropout. I dropped out of high school when I was 16, got a GED
Nice.
At boarding school, and then went into college early, dropped out of college early, and then just started trying to figure out my own path, because it's like, you know, I don't need to go super into debt to figure out what I want to do, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm capable already of doing. I just need to find what that is. So
And so you're pretty young, it sounds like. You're a pretty young guy still. So did you go immediately into the game development? What did you start with? Did you start C++ or Game Maker or some other
Well,
program?
initially I was doing writing, so I would write books. I have 2 books that I have out on Amazon that, they're not perfect, and I'd love to go back and redo them and finish the series, but with what time at this point? After that, I started getting into the game development aspect, learning Unity and trying to find a new way to tell stories, because in the end, that's kind of what I have the most fun doing,
Right.
is telling stories. So this became like a medium for that.
What were in the name of the novels that you wrote?
Armorica and Elementia.
And what are they? Are they fantasy, sci-fi?
Fantasy, medieval fantasy type stuff.
Very nice.
Really, really big on that growing up.
Very nice. Lord of the Rings fan, I take it?
Oh, absolutely.
You lived in Middle Earth?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. We got to talk about Prodigal, which I'm guessing the name is based on the prodigal son. Is that right? Or is it?
Yes. Yeah. The name is inspired by the old Bible story. The son that takes his inheritance early, dips out, spends it foolishly, and then comes back begging for forgiveness.
Yeah, and the demo is out there to play if you want to check it out. Find that on Steam. It is available on the right side of the screen as you go down. I had a little bit of trouble finding it, but I finally did. I was pretty sure I was going to buy it already because the art style is just amazing. And I love the 8-bit limitation, or kind of the 8-bit callback, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
The graphics themselves look like a Game Boy Color game. And why did you choose to limit yourself to that? What was the choice to go with that art style?
There's a couple of reasons. One of them was development time. So it's a lot easier to make things within the Game Boy Color era than to do something that looks like, say, Owlboy or something, where it's just ridiculously beautiful, complicated pixel art.
I will say, though, within its limitations, it is gorgeous and beautiful also.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying we did it out of laziness. It's more so out of like what we needed, what we had time to do. Mm-hmm. Lou and I are also really heavily inspired and nostalgic towards the old Game Boy Color games we used to play. We played a lot of Game Boy, and we loved the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages games. So that was a big inspiration there.
Oh, yeah. You can feel it. You can feel it. The whole time I was playing, I was like, this isn't Zelda. It's Zelda-ish. It's not Zelda Link's Awakening. This is Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons through and through. This is the Capcom titles. The development of Prodigal, when did it begin, and what was the main inspiration?
Development began... Well, we determined that we needed to shift to it in November because we were trying to have talks and figure out what we were going to do. And it was like, well, if we want to make things work, we're going to need to have a game out in a year. So we can't do Xenocyte. What are we going to do? So when I take breaks, I go and fiddle around with prototypes to make other games or ideas and explore stuff. And so we looked at every prototype that I had, and we pulled up this one that I made when my grandpa passed away. And we were like, oh, this one's pretty cool. We can make some adjustments, make it work, and we'll do it Game Boy style, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we wound up going with. So at that point, we said, all right, we have 8 months. Let's get this game done. We worked for 6 months on that. And then at 2 months from the deadline, around midnight, I messaged the team and said, you know what? The game plays like garbage. It looks great, but it's horrible. I'm throwing all of it away and restarting from the ground up. What? And that caused a spot of panic. But we extended our deadline by 2 months. And so in about 2 months, we recoded it. And then the remaining 2 months, we were tidying things up and reorganizing and making it all ship shape. And even then, unfortunately, because of that, we had plenty of bugs coming out, and we fixed those as quickly as possible. And even today, part of making a game, you'll still have bugs no matter how many times you fix them. Still
less than a year then for the entire game to come together. That is pure insanity. That is amazing. That is quite a feat. It's an audio podcast, so you couldn't see my mouth was open. I was like, what? Did your grandfather passing away, did that kind of inspire you to work on the project or work on the prototype to begin with?
Yeah, it was a big reason why I started work on the prototype to begin with. The story was a little bit different, but the same kind of beats are still there. It was just kind of my way of coping because I couldn't focus on Xenocyte at that time. And I was just like, I need to do something else. So I built that prototype in like a week, and then I felt a little bit better and went back to Xenocyte.
Is that why the grandfather's such a caring character within the game because of that?
Yeah.
That's really cool because I love the grandfather character in the game. He's just a sweetheart, and he just loves his grandson regardless. And much like the story of the prodigal son, he welcomes him back with open arms. It's awesome.
Yeah, welcome him back, still loves him even though he made mistakes and messed up.
Yeah. It's
Still
absolutely
family.
What was the choice to make the lead character Oren? What was the choice to make him have a troubled past? That's an interesting thing for the hero's journey. You don't usually see a character that isn't completely devoid of any faults. This character is full of them, and everyone seems to know it. What was that choice based upon?
Well, part of it was about we wanted the character to fulfill that, messed up in the past and is now trying to right the wrongs, where you get to start at basically zero with most of the town and rebuild the relationships, get close to people again and re-earn their trust. Part of that was probably inspired by my feeling that I just consistently screwed up in life. In the prototype, it wasn't as tangible of a choice of like, this is my taking it seriously. This is me coming into my own and deciding I'm going to grow up and quit making mistakes and acting like a fool everywhere. So
the gameplay is a mixture of a couple different RPG, or I would say it's Zelda inspired, but it doesn't feel like Zelda. Like I said, it's closer to the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, maybe a little bit of Final Fantasy Adventure for the Game Boy. How would you describe the gameplay?
we describe it as a adventure puzzler because the main focus is on like the puzzles in the world.
Mhm.
So you're on your adventure exploring stuff. The enemies are designed to be kind of active puzzle pieces. So all of them have different ways of dealing with them that are more effective than others. And there are certain ones that if you don't pick your battles, you're going to have a bad time. And it's not the best of combat that you're going to get out there from a top-down adventure game, but that wasn't what we were focused on. We were focused on puzzles, and Oren's a miner. He's not some big burly hero man who's going to save the world or the chosen one or anything. He's just a dude.
And the focus on puzzles is definitely there. I noticed that throughout the demo. I even got stumped at the end. I was like, I've got to go because I've got to get to this interview, but I wanted to keep playing. And I mean, I'm terrible at puzzle games, but I'm super excited to delve into this. And from what I understand, there's a lot of items in this game, such as the dread hands. I can't remember what it was called,
Mm-hmm.
that allow you to restart at the entry of this stage or the scene or wherever you're at. And from my understanding, by the end of it, the puzzles are so extreme, you have to use pretty much all the tools at your disposal. Is that right?
So we limited the tools. So you might remember in a lot of the old 2D Zeldas is you would have a whole page worth of items. And so a lot of your gameplay was spent in the UI, changing your loadout and switching to fit whatever the puzzle or room called for. What we wanted to do is to put a lot of those kind of alternate mechanics into the dungeon objects themselves, and you would use your 3 different tools differently in different situations. So we wanted to make the most out of 3 tools rather than having 14 tools or something obscene. So I had one guy that was talking about like, oh, well, I never knew that this was in the game. I didn't know there was a second inventory page because I never was in the UI. And to me, that's like such a huge win that this guy got through the entire game without ever opening the inventory, because that was one of my goals, was to let people spend more time in game and less time in menus.
The really cool thing is the layout of the screen. It does look like a Game Boy Color. It has the box, and then it has your tools on the left side, your life and your money. I'm not sure if it's called coins, money, pena, whatever it's called. But my question was, number one, what made you decide to bring in the Harvest Moon type elements of being able to eventually create these relationships, go deeper inside of them, and then by the end of the game, spoilers, be able to get married to one of the characters? What brought that in?
I felt that was just kind of a part of Oren growing up, was starting his own family. That's part of being an adult to some people, is they get their job, they start taking it seriously, they find a wife, and they start building a family. So for him, with his parents now gone and no siblings, he's carrying on the family forward and growing up.
How many times did the overworld change? Because I think the overworld's very tight. The village itself, its design is almost perfection. I spent some time just wandering around the village. Did that change a lot? And do you ever exit the village in the game?
We had a very large overworld at one point, and that lasted until that midnight meeting of the game feels like garbage, I'm redoing everything. And that was kind of where we tightened things up and decided, we don't need this massive obscene overworld. We can just make this nice cozy town with everything pretty handy and easy to access, which fits our death punishment pretty well, of sending you back to the church.
Yes.
Because if you had to go across that massive overworld, that'd be a huge pain and a half.
Yeah, I died quite a few times, and it didn't feel cheap, but I felt cheated because I was like, I was right there. I was right there, but it felt good to be like, all right, the challenge is here in the game where I'm going to have to go back to the dungeon. I'm going to have to go back to the mine or wherever it was. And so I really like that, but like it did definitely feel like when I ended up back at the church, I was like, no, come on. But thank God it wasn't far to go. And I like the idea of it being compressed to this village. So all the adventure takes place within the different landmarks of the village. Is that correct?
You might leave at some points, but
Ooh,
we don't want to spoil the story for anyone that's gonna be
that-
playing it. So
that's me. I'm going to be playing it.
yeah,
I can't wait.
yeah.
The sprite work is absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, I love chunky sprites. This goes somewhere between, just a normal like Zelda-ish sprite to the chunky sprites, which are absolutely gorgeous. And even more so with your new game, they have the chunkier sprites, the anime style. Was it always supposed to be that style of sprites with this, or did it have an evolution?
We had a couple test sprites, which we started with just doing Keaton's portrait, and we did it a couple times, and we wound up to where the final style is, and then we went through and did everybody else. So I'm not sure that the game went through a number of iterations in terms of art style. I think we basically did some tests, wound up where we wanted to go, and then went forward. Lou has gone back and made adjustments here and there when he thought it was necessary, but other than that, we've been consistently marching forward as you have to do when we're on such short timelines.
Oh yeah, that's less than a year. Like I said, absolutely insane. Is Lou the main sprite artist then, or is there multiple?
Lulu Paz, the main sprite artist. He is a incredible talent. I am very lucky to have the people that I do. I have an incredible guy on sound. I have Lou and Pillow doing the pixel art, and then Crystal and Scoot doing concept art. It was a great team. We did a good job. And now we have a couple more people that we brought in, and hopefully we'll do a great job again with Curse Crackers.
Real quick, I want to bring up John Sinclair. You mentioned him earlier. The music is amazing. Absolutely wonderful 8-bit renditions. What do they call it? Chip tunes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely beautiful music. So you can download the game, but you can also spend the extra $5 and get the original soundtrack. So definitely do so. Real quick, if you were to sell the game to somebody, what would you say they would expect from it?
Prodigal is an adventure puzzler where you go back, rebond with your hometown, and discover your own adventure. There are all sorts of events that go on in the town Advance Point, and we have lots of people experiencing the game differently from even their close friends, and they'll have conversation about like, oh, well, I saw this, you saw that, what was that, how do I encounter this? You'll certainly have your own adventure with it and have some fun.
And it's funny, people. That's the other thing. The thing is humorous. It's written so well. The dialogue is great. The presentation is amazing. You've got to at least try the demo. And I think if you try the demo, you're going to end up buying the game. Just go Steam right now, Prodigal, go get it. It'll be linked in the description. That's all you need to do. Click there and you will go to the game.
Hey everyone, it's just Duck jumping in here real quick to say thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you're enjoying it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that, back to the podcast.
Let's talk about the new game, though. Cursed Crackers, for Whom the Belle Toils. Does this take place in the same universe as Prodigal?
Same universe, yep.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
We have a couple of characters that you will see that appeared in Prodigal that will be in Curse Crackers. And going forward with the story of this universe, you're going to see a lot of these characters again. So this is kind of like the two introductions to the universe, and then we're going to start shaking things up a good bit.
When did development start on Cursed Crackers? Or Cursed Crackers,
October or December, maybe. Whenever we took the Steam page live, we started like 2 weeks before that.
So it's only been a couple months, and you had a demo for Retropalooza that quick?
Oh yeah, we've been working hard. We don't play around.
No doubt. So I miss playing the game at Retropalooza. To me, it looks like a side scroller, kind of in the vein of maybe Kirby, but maybe I'm completely wrong. How would you describe the game?
So we're kind of describing it as a adventure platformer, because you may remember in the old Mario games, you'd have the overworld map, but that was just a way of getting into the levels. For us, we're putting different little points of interest, passive areas, towns, different people's homes that you can go in and visit and interact with these fun characters, find different mini games, do quests for people. We even have all these different magical baked goods that you'll unlock by getting ingredients, and those will give you different upgrades and perhaps even some magical artifacts that you can equip to do some really wild things. But it's a little more meaty than just a straightforward level to level platformer. Originally, we were planning to do like, you may remember Kirby 1 was basically like 6 levels. That was our original plan. We wanted to have the game done by, I think we wanted to have it done by the end of November is what we were trying to do, because it was only going to be those 6 levels. But then I got it to a point where I was like, dude, this gameplay is so sick. Like, we have to do more for this. We can't waste it. This feels so good to move around in.
Nice.
So we've beefed it up a good bit, and we're still trying to get to by February, but Lou got pretty sick. So he's been out of commission for about a week and a half. And when we work the way we do, that's probably like 2 months worth of work time that we're behind on now. So I don't know when we're going to manage to get it done. I'm trying for February still on my end, but we have to play by ear. Unfortunately, that's just how we work.
Workaholic. Same 8-bit retro style. I say 8-bit inspired. It's not really 8-bit, but it's inspired by the Game Boy Color. But it's kind of the same art style. But like I said, chunkier sprites, taller sprites. It's an action, game. And so I saw some of the gameplay footage, and it looked like there's a lot of different moves your character can do. What's the character's Belle, right?
Yeah, the main character's name is Belle, and she has a little assistant named Chime, her little buddy. And with Chime, you can throw him at things, bonk him off of stuff, bounce him off walls, and reflect him around. And you can even throw him down. He'll bounce up and bounce into you, so you can get a little extra height on your jump. Belle herself is perfectly capable of getting around with long jumps, high jumps, crawls, kick slides, all sorts of stuff. We wanted to make sure that she had a lot of ways to get around and felt pretty mobile. And golly, you have so many mobility options. It's so much fun to just run around. It's kind of like Mario 64. You get into that little playground of, outside Peach's castle, and you just run around and play. And it's like, damn, I can do so much stuff right now. This is sweet. It's kind of like that.
I love games that have that too. It's almost required nowadays to have full mobility of the character, but it also just makes it feel so fluid, And and you look at the sprite animation and you see how fluid it is. It's absolutely beautiful seeing it in action. It's amazing.
Lou drives me bananas, but it's 100% worth it. He'll do something and be like, all right, I've got these 4 sprites I need you to put into this, but it needs to work exactly like this to fit it. And it's a little extra work, but it winds up looking so good and being worth it. So
what was the idea of turning the Peach being kidnapped by Bowser on its head on this, with the boyfriend being kidnapped by the rival Bonnie? What was the idea behind that, and making the lead character a female?
So we had another project that we were fiddling with in the background. This is another one of the prototypes, but we had done some concept art for it just because we were excited about it. And so we had the characters of Bonnie and Belle already existing, and we were pretty fond of both of them. We thought they were pretty cool, exciting characters. And honestly, I don't remember why we thought it would be funny to just have Bonnie roll up and kidnap the boyfriend. But our process with like a project initially is we'll just sit in a call and just throw around ideas, and whatever tickles us the most is generally what we'll roll with and figure out a way to make it work. In terms of like bigger story and stuff, we are a little more thoughtful than that. But, with this, it was just like, what's the impetus here? What's to get Belle moving around and acting in the world? And we thought that would be an amusing twist on it. So
very nice. The Chime, it's a lovable pet of questionable origins. So does that play largely into, I know you can't give away what that means, but does that play largely into this overarching storyline?
Well, I wouldn't want to spoil anything. And I certainly wouldn't want to give anything away about our good buddy Chime. He's such a sweet little fellow.
I got you. No problem. The boss battles look intense. They almost look Cupheadish. I think that's a term that we could use. Are we looking at that for the boss battles, or is there going to be like we talked about earlier, kind of in Kirby or Mario, there's all these smaller levels and then you get to the big boss battle at the end and then it's epic, or what are we looking for?
So our format that we're working with is we're doing 5 levels per zone. And then on the 3rd level, you get kind of a mid boss. And then on the 5th level, you get a closing boss. With our difficulty curve, we're trying not to make it too hard, kind of like Prodigal. Prodigal is a very easy game. Once you get into the flow of it, you understand it. If you're using the buffs and your equipment and all that sort of stuff, the game's pretty easy. And then if you get into post game, if you're courageous enough, that gets pretty hard. That's kind of what we're trying to go with here, is where you have a pretty straightforward, not too easy, but easier end game. And then once you get through that main storyline, you get access to a lot of optional stuff that'll kick your tail if that's what you're into.
Which I am. I'm excited about this game. I love the way it looks. I love the music. The trailer really does sell it. You can pet the dog, which I'm guessing was a big issue people had with Prodigal. Is that right? Because you had an update where you could finally pet the dog.
Oh, okay. So we could always pet the dog. We just didn't have an animation for it. So you could play fetch with the dog from the day the game came out, and you could pet him, but there wasn't an animation to actually pet him. You just interact and he'd get a little heart. So it was kind of like implied. But, people were like, I just want to pet him. I really want to pet him. So Pillow, he's one of the other pixel artists. He took a day and just was like, all right, I'm going to make the frames for it. And then Min's going to put them in. So he went out of his way to make those frames. So everybody should thank Pillow for that.
Thank you, Pillow. We appreciate
What a champion.
it. We wanted to pet the dog and we got to. And then in the trailer for Cursed Crackers, that's a huge dog you get to pet. So who doesn't love
yeah. He's a big handsome boy.
Secrets and magical artifacts hidden throughout the game. Is that meaning there's going to be power-ups or?
Yeah. So if you look at a screenshot, you'll see that there is this suspicious empty socket on the HUD. And there are probably things that are going to be able to be equipped into that socket, but we haven't announced anything yet. No one knows anything yet, but that might be something related to that.
What are you most excited about the game itself? What is the thing that you look forward to the most in people experiencing?
Oh dear. That's hard. I like getting people's initial reactions. I also like putting in things that are like little tricks or me being a troublemaker. So like the dog, if you hit the ball left, he gets sad and you lose his ball in the ocean.
Oh,
I don't know if you've encountered that.
No, not yet.
We'll see streamers do that constantly, because rather than putting the stairs to the left of the dog, so you're naturally on his left, hit the ball to the right, and he goes and chases it, the stairs come down on his right side. So it's easier to hit the ball into the ocean as your first swing to hit the ball. And we've seen so many people hit the ball into the ocean and be like, oh no, I've ruined this save. I can't get the ball back. I made the dog sad. I'm a terrible person. I like stuff like that. I think it'll be really cool to see people's reactions when they first get their hands on the character. That was something that was really cool about Retropalooza, is we would have people sit there and be like, oh my gosh, dude, this feels so good. And we had a bunch of kids that kept coming back and wanting to play it again and again and again. And that was really cool. It's just really fun to see those initial reactions for sure.
How many hours of gameplay are we looking at? I read online for Prodigal, you're looking at 10 to 60 hours, depending on what you want to do. Does that sound right for Prodigal?
Prodigal, the average finish time for a first timer was like 8 hours. If you want 100% it, that's going to take a lot longer, because post game, there's a joke in the community that when you beat the game for the first time, congratulations, you've unlocked the other 75% of the game, which is pretty accurate. That's where all the difficult content is. That's where a lot of the replayability is. So it opens up a lot of stuff. But with Curse Crackers, it's really hard to say, because like I'll go through a level and I'm testing these levels and finishing them in like a minute and a half probably. But first timers are going to have a harder time, and they're going to die. They're going to be restarting. They're going to be exploring the town and doing quests and fiddling around. So to give an idea, like if I'm finishing all levels in a minute and a half, it's probably like an hour-ish for me to go through the entire game, not doing the quest, just going level to level to level. But the same thing happened with Prodigal. I was beating the game in an hour, and we were panicked that you could beat the game in an hour. It sounded horrible, because these people are going to beat it in an hour and be like, wow, I spent $10 on this, I got ripped off. But people would spend upwards of 8 hours. I think it's very possible we'll see the same thing happen here, because players aren't trying to be efficient. They're trying to experience the game and have fun and learn stuff. So
so probably,
gosh, there's so much to discover and find and encounter and collect in this.
That is awesome. Do you guys have any plans of porting to any other platforms in the future?
We would like to port to other platforms. We have plans to try after this comes out, but the company response to that has been, our initial focus is on getting Curse out on PC, and after that we're going to address and explore other options of other platforms.
especially because when you said the kids are reacting to it, it sounds like it needs to go to Switch. Sounds like
Switch is my biggest interest for sure, because that would be a definite dream to be on a Nintendo console as someone who grew up explicitly on Nintendo consoles. So
I hear you, man. I'm a Nintendo fanboy through and through. The nice thing is you can go wishlist it on Steam right now. Go click the button, watch the trailer, check out some pictures, read the description, and just wishlist it. You're going to want to play this game. I haven't played it yet, but I want to play it. I know that just from looking at what you put out so far. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Release date around February is the game plan, but it could get pushed back a little bit at this point.
Our original aim was the end of February. It's probably going to get pushed back just because of, people getting sick and other troublesome stuff. But, if you want to stay in touch with it, our Discord or our Twitter is very active. We're very open and communicative with the community. So that's about the best way to keep track of it.
And we'll have that linked in the description. We'll have the Discord, we'll have the Twitter and the website. And plus the Steam link and the itch.io. Is it itch? I always say that wrong. Itch. ITCH. It's itch. Right?
I have no idea how you're supposed to say it. I say Itch.io.
Yeah. Let's go with Itch.io. We'll link the Itch.io. What's in the future for Colorgrave? What do you think is coming down the pipeline? Possible ports? Are you going to start, like you said, you were going to go back to the original game and start working on it? But is there another? You say you're always working on these prototypes. Do you got some in the hopper right now?
I have some prototypes. I have some stuff. We certainly have plans for what we're jumping to right after this. So the current plan is that we're going to finish this game. The art team's going to go into what we're working on next immediately, and I'm going to go to set up the ports for both games. So we'll port both of those probably, or try to, around the same time. And by the time that I'm done with all of that, hopefully a lot of the art assets will be done, and then I can just no life it for a few months and get the next game coded and out.
I was gonna ask, is this a full-time gig for you, or do you have to work a day job?
Oh yeah, I'm working from 6:30 to about 12 every day.
That's the way to do it. Work your
full
life
time. Definite full time.
It's got to be a passion then. Like, you must really enjoy it, but at the same time, work is work, and sometimes it's got to suck, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, especially when you get a bug that's like real troublesome and you just can't figure out how to fix it. I was working the other day. I spent 3 days on the same part of content because I wanted to make sure that it felt right, which, I'm a perfectionist. So it was already passable multiple times. It was already like fully playable and fine. But there was one thing where the character would be off by a pixel with the motion, which I didn't like how that was feeling. So I just kept adjusting it and tweaking it. And yeah, that's part of it. So
it's an endless process. The name Colorgrave, what does it come from?
Oh gosh, Colorgrave's the name of a character that we have. We were trying to figure out what to name ourselves other than White Clover, because that's what we were originally. We wanted to do something that was simple, straightforward, not competing with stuff everywhere. And we wanted to have like a clean URL. And we had that character name and we were pretty fond of it. So we went with it.
That's a great name, dude. I dig it.
Part of my problem is I'll get about like 75% of the way through a project. And then, we're so fully prepped on the next one and the next prototype that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get my dessert, but I need to finish my main course first.
Right.
So we're getting dangerously close to that point where I'm getting too excited about the next thing. And I can't even talk about it to anybody too. So that's the worst part.
I mean, if you're this prolific, if you're able to put out games this quickly with this level of quality, I mean, you guys are going to have great success in the future. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see. I hope that Curse Crackers is the game that blows up for you, and then you're able to, merchandise it out, make your money, and then work on what you need to do. But if it's not, it's going to be the next one or the next one. So
I appreciate that. We certainly put our heart and soul into it, and we're pretty committed to not releasing garbage. So if we have something that feels bad and we're 2 weeks out from a deadline, we're going to delay it and we're going to redo it. It stinks, but I kind of look at our communicated deadlines as being like soft deadlines, because we're not going to put something out to our community that's bad. Like, I might take a hit in terms of my credibility of like, oh, well, he keeps delaying games. He's lying and he has unrealistic expectations. But when we work like we do, just being messed up by 1 week puts us pretty far behind. So like, we're honestly trying to meet those expected release dates, but something may happen or something may feel bad, and we're going to sit there and do what we need to do to make sure it feels right.
Gonna get it right. I mean, I feel like Prodigal got it right. From what I played of it, I'm super excited to play more of it. I'm gonna Twitch stream it. I'm gonna have a blast doing so, guys.
Oh, when you stream it, you should link it to us. We'll come hang out. We'd love to hang out in Twitch streams.
Absolutely. With that said, guys and gals, go out there and buy Prodigal right now. It's $10, $9.99. It's not even $10. It's $9.99 on Steam. You got to get it. You can get the soundtrack for an additional $5. It's going to be worth your time. It's been sold to you already by Mhinbron. He told you what is going on with the game. So go out there and get it. Everything, once again, is linked in the description. So go check out all the links there. And with that said, Mhinbron, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we can talk again once we have that next game announced.
Oh, that'll
be fun.
That would rock. That would
and after you've had the chance to play Curse Crackers.
Oh, I can't wait. It's on my wish list, like I said.
Thank you for that. That helps us a lot.
Yeah, so
lots of people don't know that.
Yeah, the second it comes out, I'll be getting it. With that said, this has been Duck, and thank you so much for listening. And that's it. That's the podcast. We did it.
High five. Well done.
Yeah.
And there it is. Thank you again so much for checking out the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love the other podcasts here on the We Are Podcast Network. We have We Are Air, where we talk movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That's me, that's Jake, and that's Hobby. We're breaking down that pop culture, and we're having so much fun. Heroes, Gyros, a Dungeons and Distractions side quest. Me and the boys were playing some D&D. You can start that one from Season 1, Episode 1. It's a blast the whole way through. And I Hate Being Sober. Personal stories from epic people. I sit down with some of my favorite people of all time. We talk about their trials, their tribulations, and their journey this far. And finally, our new live video podcast, Camp/Horrorcast, where we're going to have a roundtable discussion about our favorite horror movies. That'll be available on Twitch and YouTube, streaming every Monday at 8 p.m. Check the links in the description to find out what movies we'll be watching. Also, check the links in the description for our social media. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast Network. With that said, thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Please remember to support local comedy in any way that you can. We'll see you next time.